All right, guys. So I recently just watched The Abyss. It's a movie from the 1980s, and it's basically about these oil workers on this rig in the middle of the ocean, and their rig is compromised due to a big hurricane, and everyone's life is in danger, and a huge alien paranormal, species ends up saving everybody on the rig's life. And it was a pretty interesting movie, but after watching this movie, it really reminded me of how much I used to love those types of movies. I used to be obsessed with sea monsters and the ocean, sea creatures, mermaids, all of that stuff when I was younger. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my favorite sea monster movies. Those ones on Sci-Fi that are so bad that they're good. And talk a little bit about some of my favorite ones and just do like an overall rating. So let's get into it. So obviously I have to start off with The Abyss. It's the most recent one that I've watched. I wouldn't necessarily call it a sea creature movie. It's more of kind of like an action movie. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Poseidon, but it's kind of like Poseidon in terms of like there's a male hero character with a bunch of different characters by his side as like his sidekicks, or like he's saving this group of people. It was super long. It was over 2 hours, but I don't think it was slow. I wasn't bored at any point. And I really am bad at paying attention to movies that are longer than like an hour and 45 minutes. But I wasn't bored at all watching this movie. I think that every moment in the movie is needed. In terms of the alien creature, it was discussed for the first half, and then when we hit the halfway mark, it kind of headed into a different direction with a different plot line. But at the end of the day, at the end of the movie, the alien does come back. I wish it focused a little bit more on the alien species, because it was super interesting, but we didn't really learn much about it until the end. So I would rate The Abyss overall a 7.5 out of 10. It was a really good movie considering it was made in the 1980s, and I found all of the stuff that they did with special effects, I thought that was really good considering its time. So I would rate that a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like there's so many shark movies. I personally like movies that are more about like fictional sea monsters instead of sharks. I feel like the shark thing is just super overused. And like it's more creative when like writers create these creatures that don't exist. I feel like it's a lot more entertaining. With my first favorite sea monster sci-fi movie of all time, it's Megapython versus Gatoroid. This movie is absolutely goated. I watched Megapython versus Gatoroid because when I was like 13 years old, I had a crazy obsession with Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. I actually met both of them. I met Debbie Gibson at a convention when I was 13, and I met Tiffany at one of her concerts in Boston, and they were both super nice. I've also seen them multiple other times in concert, and they were just super nice. I really did like Megapython versus Gatoroid. It was rumored that Debbie Gibson and Tiffany had this huge rivalry in the 80s, so they kind of played on that topic and made them rivals in the movie, and they hated each other. But in the end, they had to work together to save the world, basically, from the huge snakes and alligators. Honestly, it's one of those really crappy sci-fi movies, but it was so good because of Debbie Gibson and Tiffany's relationship. The acting was not good at all, but it's a very entertaining movie. It's a 10 out of 10 for me just because I love them both, and I grew up watching this movie. I had a ton of copies of it on DVD, and I had a big poster of it in my room when I was a kid. Another one that I really like is Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. This one also has Debbie Gibson in it. I really liked the story, and I thought Debbie Gibson's acting was a lot better in this one. I just don't think she plays like a crazy scientist well, which is what she played in Megapython versus Gatoroid. So Debbie Gibson plays a marine biologist, and she's dispatched to investigate what is going on in the ocean because they found a ton of like beached whales, and they were like, what's going on? Something is killing them. So she ends up going to investigate this, and also had the help of a Japanese scientist, and they both make a huge discovery. It's honestly really good. I really liked the relationship between Seiji and Emma, who's Debbie Gibson's character. Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus, I would rate that a 8 out of 10. Now we're gonna get more into the shark movies. I used to be a huge Sharknado fan as well. I met Ian Ziering at the same convention that I met Debbie Gibson at. I used to love the Sharknado movies. I definitely would say the first one is the best. I feel like the first one had a little bit more of a serious tone, and then I just kind of feel like every movie they made after that was made to be more of like a comedy. It was one of those sci-fi series that had too many cameos to even count, but the first one didn't really have any cameos. It was more of like a serious movie. There were 6 Sharknado movies in total. The first one was released in 2013, and the last one was released in 2018. And you can just kind of tell by the film covers that as it goes on, it gets more like unserious. It's kind of made for comedy. The first Sharknado movie I would rate a 6 out of 10, and the rest are a 0 out of 10. There was also another series that I watched, the Multiple-Headed Shark Attack series. I don't know what to call it. Obviously, Two-Headed Shark Attack was the best one. I feel like these series kind of just, I don't know why they continue them for that long when the first one was already so bad. Why would you try and milk it and get 3 more movies out of it that are just gonna get worse views than the first one, if that's even possible? I watched the first one, Two-Headed Shark Attack, because I went through a Carmen Electra phase. We're just not going to talk about it. But she is in Two-Headed Shark Attack. It was okay. It was like a good, crazy bad sci-fi movie. If you're like in the mood for that, definitely check that one out. So basically, there was, I think it was either high school or college, I forget, but they were all on a ship for a semester at sea, and the ship sinks, and they're all stranded on this island, and the island is being circled by a shark with 2 heads. It's interesting in terms of like, oh, it's a group of like teenagers on an island with barely any parental supervision. The supervisors of the trip, one of them is Carmen Electra, and she is not a good supervisor, as you can imagine, because she's maybe like 5 years older than them. She's still super young. Two-Headed Shark Attack, I would say 5 out of 10. Now, I had a really strong stomach as a kid, and when I say kid, I was like 12, 13 watching these movies. Definitely too young to be watching them. But a lot of these movies were very, like, gruesome and very gory. And not many of the movies freaked me out as a kid. I could get through them without having to turn it off. The only one that I had to stop watching because I was so traumatized and I never finished it was Sharktopus. So this half shark, half octopus creature was created for the military, and it gets let loose and it goes on a rampage, terrorizing people in Mexico, and the scientist who created it tries to kill it. It was honestly very traumatizing. The creature itself was so creepy looking. It visibly looked more fake than like other sci-fi movies that I've seen, and I feel like that freaked me out even worse. Because it kind of looked cartoony, and it kind of looked like those like stop animation, like claymation figures. The creature would kill people by like stabbing it with its tentacles because it had like sharp things on the end of its tentacles, so it would like come out of the ocean, take a tentacle, and like it would just stab the person. It would just go right through the person. There apparently is a sequel to this movie. It's called Sharktopus versus Pteracuda. Never seen it, don't have any desire to watch it. Since I never finished Sharktopus, I can't really rate it, but I guess I'll give it a 2 out of 10. Another one is Dino Shark. This one confused me because I feel like it just looked like a dinosaur with fins. There was no like shark anatomy to it. The fins didn't even look like shark fins. It literally just looked like a dino fish, just like a dinosaur with fins. I don't remember much about the storyline, but based on the animal itself, I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 10 as well. Just not very accurate. At least the other movies, like the two-headed shark, looked good. And it was cool how in Sharknadoes there were sharks falling everywhere in the sky. This one, just, it didn't do it for me. I didn't like the look of the dino shark. One of the ones that I had to mention was Malibu Shark Attack. So Malibu Shark Attack was also one of the better ones. It was a group of lifeguards, and they were all working on the beach, and then there was a huge storm, and it washed a bunch of killer sharks to shore. Basically, like, the entire town was underwater. But I rediscovered this movie recently because I love the movie Mercy, as I've talked about in my other videos, and I was watching Mercy and I was like, oh my god, Vicky looks so familiar. Who is she? What is she from? And Vicky is actually in Malibu Shark Attack, the actress Peta Wilson. I liked the story of Malibu Shark Attack. Like I said, it follows a group of lifeguards and they're all super good friends. I feel like a lot of these movies are better when there's good character dynamics. Because like the characters grow on you and you don't want them to die. And when you see like a couple or like a relationship, a good friendship between two characters, like you're like, oh my god, I hope one of them doesn't die, because then the other person would be so upset. Even if the acting's not great, it just really helps when there's a solid group of characters, and I feel like it makes more of an impact when you care about the characters. So Malibu Shark Attack was good. I'm gonna give that one a 6.5 out of 10. Some of the new shark movies are honestly just as bad as the old ones. Most of the new shark movies that I've seen aren't through Sci-Fi. But some of my favorite ones that I've seen is Something in the Water. This one was so good, partly also because it follows a group of best friends. One of their friends is getting married and they're all at this tropical destination for the wedding, and they end up renting a boat and going on the boat, and their boat breaks down and they're stuck on this island, and there's a huge shark in the water. I liked this one because there was some queer representation, and I also really liked the relationship between all the friends. There was two girls that dated and they broke up. Throughout the film, they kind of grow closer again, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's a pretty good movie. I'd rate that one an 8 out of 10. It was solid in my opinion. Another one that I really liked, that's more of a recent film, is Sweetheart. So this follows a shipwreck survivor on a tropical island that ends up having to like fend off a creature that comes on the island every night. So during the day it lives in the ocean, and at night it comes on the island. And this isn't a shark movie. This is like a creature, which I really found interesting. I love seeing like the special effects, especially when it's not computer generated. I used to love the show called Face Off, where it was all about prosthetics and creating creatures with prosthetic pieces. So I really liked this movie because you can tell that the creature was a person in a suit, in a mask, and it was super cool to see all the special effects that went into this that weren't computer generated. And this is also a Blumhouse movie, so it was pretty good. It's one character, but she's a teenage girl, so you really kind of feel for her, and she's super strong. I'd rate this one probably a 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty good. Alright, so those were just some of the sea creature movies that I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm probably going to do a part 2 and talk about some more movies, but that was it for part 1, and I will see you guys for the part 2. Bye, guys.